Kulkarni, hi, good afternoon and thanks for your time today. First up, Crisil expects complex fertilizer volumes to rise only about 2 to 4% this year compared to the 9% growth that we've seen for this segment last year. Could you help us understand what's driving this slowdown in your expectation?
Sure, thank you. The slower growth will be primarily attributed to the availability issues of imported fertilizers, and that too particularly diammonium phosphate, that is DAP. Now, imports of DAP typically contribute around 30% of overall complex fertilizers volumes in the country, and these are impacted due to geopolitical disruptions. Additionally, complex fertilizers also saw good growth of around 9% last fiscal, as compared to your on an average decadal average of around 4 to 5%. So considering that high base effect as well, we expect the growth to be at 2 to 4%, which is reasonable. That's what our expectation this year is.
Right. Hi, Mr. Kulkarni. This is Ankita also joining in. I'll take a lead from what you just spoke about, the DAP, and the NPK picking up. With the DAP volumes now likely to stay flat and the NPK expected to grow at around 4 to 6%, how do you see this overall product mix shaping up this year?
For simplicity, I'll rightly focus on only DAP and NPK, while there are other complex fertilizers like SSP and MOP. For this discussion, we'll only focus on DAP and NPK. So typically, you would see NPK fertilizers contributing to around 50-55% of overall complex fertilizers in the country. Last fiscal, the share of NPK increased to more than 60%. This was due to the 12% decline that we had seen in DAP for the reasons that I explained earlier. While the DAP volumes got impacted, the farmers tend to use available other alternatives to provide adequate nutrients to their crops. Hence, the domestic manufacturing of complex fertilizers shifted from DAP to NPK. The capacities are typically fungible. Hence, overall volumes of NPK surged by around 28% last fiscal. This fiscal, we expect some green shoots in terms of DAP availability due to possible easing of imports from China, as well as interventions by government that we've seen where they've signed a long-term agreement with Saudi Arabia. However, overall, we expect the DAP volumes to remain flat and NPK volumes to grow slightly in a single digit. The mix of NPK to DAP will remain 60-40 this fiscal. Over the medium term, however, we'll see easing of gradual DAP availability, and the mix will restore back with 50-55% of NPK and 45-50% of DAP over the medium term.
Okay, so thanks for that clarity in terms of the numbers that you've given us. Also help us understand how have the ongoing geopolitical issues and China's export restrictions, how have they been affected, or how are they affecting fertilizer availability for Indian players?
Right, a very important point. So just to give a perspective, China accounted for more than 40% of India's DAP imports last fiscal, that is fiscal 24. They had curbed their exports in last fiscal, that is fiscal 25. Consequently, we've seen the share of imports from China decline to around 18%. So from around 42% to 18% between 24 to 25. So that impacted overall DAP availability. Additionally, other geopolitical issues also impacted the industry. For example, let's take an example of Iran-Israel conflict. That impacted the input prices. This is because large quantity of fertilizer shipments passed through the Strait of Hormuz, and the conflict resulted in the rise in shipping, freight cost, insurance costs, etc. Earlier also we'd seen Red Sea crisis that impacted transport timings as well as costs. So all such geopolitical disruptions, they lead to supply chain issues and hence increase in prices. Just to give an example, the DAP prices recently have already gone up 50% year on year because of all these geopolitical issues.
Right.
Having said that, we expect the DAP supply to ease from China in the second half of the current fiscal.
Okay. Mr. Kulkarni, sounding optimistic on that note. Due to paucity of time, we'll have to end our interaction here today, but hope to keep reconnecting with you, and thanks so much for your time today.
Sure, thank you very much.
Thanks a lot.